Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, if you want to understand why Canada is as doomed as it is, and if you don't understand that already, we shall explain yet another reason in today's show. Conservative MP Jamil Jivani is now getting thrown heavily under the bus for stating the absolute obvious that already cost the Conservatives the election. Behold.
The answer is no. Canadians are legitimately upset by the unjustifiable tariffs and comments that the president has made. And, you know, as the prime minister has said, nobody can control Donald Trump. As Mr. Harper said, we have to focus not on how the president's words and deeds make us feel, but on what we can do to adapt. And what can we do? We've got to unlock our resources, build up our strategic defense minerals, bring home the capital that's fled the country, and use that leverage to fight for tariff-free access to the United States and other markets.
Pause. Listen to the buzzwords. Unlock, leverage, natural resources. Just buzzwords. Why is Canada in the situation that it's in? Who knows? Is Canada in a situation that makes it virtually impossible to do what Pierre is talking about right now? And we'll get to the context of this, which is that a Conservative MP by the name of Jamil Jivani had the audacity of going to America, to Washington, to meet with Donald John Trump, the president of these United States of America. And Pierre Poilievre, that's who you're looking at right now, the so-called conservative leader of the so-called opposition party, the so-called leader, is a little bit pissed off about this because someone's taking a little bit of an initiative to try to make amends with America as opposed to continuing to drive a wedge in relations with America.
Have you spoken to Mr. Jivani about his comments?
Yes, I have.
And what was your message to him?
Well, my message is that Canadians are understandably upset about the tariffs and
Why do you have the tariffs? Have you answered that question yet? No.
Comments that President Trump has made, and that we need to focus on what we can do here at home, what we can control in our own realm in order to be capable of having the leverage to negotiate tariff-free access to the U.S.
The things that they can do, that they have in their power, apparently not to control the production of fentanyl in their own country and that which crosses the border, apparently not to control people on terror watch lists being allowed into the country under these visas that are being given out like cotton candy. They can't control that. So they're going to cozy up with China. They're going to continue to exacerbate relations with Trump. Whether you like what he's doing or not, it's the wrong way that they've dealt with it. And it actually, I dare say, cost the Conservatives the election. Let's go on.
That potentially this is like muddling the message here, the fact that you're the leader and he seems to be talking out of turn on this issue?
Well, he speaks for himself and I speak for the party.
No, that might be the problem, Pierre, and not the solution. Now, for those of you who don't know, so Jamil Jivani, this guy, you might never have heard about him if you're not Canadian. In fact, we'll bring it up first. Jamil Jivani is a young conservative MP, member of parliament. He, pretty decent guy, joined the party and had the audacity of going to Washington to meet with Donald Trump. He gave an interview, and the sound clip is going viral, where he said, you know, Canadians are losing because of the hissy fit, the anti-American hissy fit that they're throwing in terms of, you know, what the things that Donald Trump has said, and they're reacting against America because of that. As though Canadians have not always defined themselves by not being American. I am Canadian, lived there for 43 years before moving to Florida. I lived in Quebec City when I studied law for 4 years. Part of the Canadian identity is literally not being American. It always has been that way. Americans are boorish, according to Canadians. Americans are ignorant, according to Canadians. Americans are gun-toting, overweight, according to Canadians. Set aside the fact that obesity in Quebec in particular, but in Canada in general, matches that in America. Americans can't find any country on a map. That's how Canada and Canadians have defined themselves for the last decades. To pretend now that the anti-American sentiment in Canada is the result of Trump's statements is to live in a void where you learned nothing from history because you were largely unaware of it. This is what Jamil Jivani said the other day. It's going viral now, and my only observation is what he said is 100% accurate. And it would have done a great deal of good for the Conservatives to understand this during the election that they just lost to the Liberals. Now they lost another Conservative MP to the Liberals, for anybody who's paying attention. Listen to what he said. It's terrible. It's horrible.
We are shooting ourselves in the foot if we continue this anti-America, hissy fit. And this is the kind of reason I'm trying to talk into our government and some of the Liberals who have just gone way off the reservation on this. And, the ball is in Prime Minister Mark Carney's court. Like, I've offered to help him. I think it'd be awesome if we went down there together. I think we'd get a lot done working together. But he's got to decide whether that's something he wants to do or not.
Now, by the way, you know what the Karens are freaking out about for this statement? The off the reservation is part of what they're freaking out about. They're accusing a man who, Jamil Jivani, I believe he's part Jamaican, if not fully Jamaican. They're accusing Jamil of using a racist idiom, which is off the reservation, which apparently, if you look at the etymology of the term off the reservation, it's what was done for Native Americans, Indians who were living on reservations, who would go off the reservation. Apparently, it authorized their arrest and, according to some, their murder by the police. If an Indian went off reservation, a Native American, Native Canadian, if they went off reservation, it was a dog whistle for lawlessness and violence against them. They're freaking out about his use of the word. They've gone off the reservation because they've gone out in left field with their position against America. They're also going, crazy over the fact that someone's actually calling them out for throwing a hissy fit in their relations with America.
We are shooting ourselves in the foot if we continue this anti-America, hissy fit.
No, you're not shooting yourselves in the foot because you're going to go and make friends with China. We'll get to that in a second. Go online and look at the faux outrage. Virtue signaling buffoons. The same people who use the expression rule of thumb, which, according to some etymology, is an old English phrase where you could beat your wife with a stick so long as it was narrower than your thumb. So they said the rule of thumb. I'm actually not sure if that's the legitimate etymology of it. I know that was the explanation in the movie Boondock Saints as well. Great movie. Check it out. But people are freaking out about some historical idiom that somehow makes it racist to use certain terms. Rule of thumb, circling the wagons. Oh, there's so many. You got that guy there, the body fitness guy who judges other people at the gym, who had to go on an apology tour because he said colored person instead of person of color. So that's what Jamil Jivani said. And he's 1,000% right. And when people can't really address the substance of what you're saying, then they just cry racism. Some particularly self-righteous Karens, I write, are crying over his use of the idiom that in their anti-American sentiment, liberals have gone off the reservation. The fact that what Jamil said is controversial in Canada is the problem in Canada. And the fact that a bunch of self-righteous, virtue-signaling hypocrites want to feign outrage at an innocuous idiom is the problem in Canada. Jamil is right. And the response to his comments proves exactly why Canada is doomed. Now, back to the article where we were asking, what do you think about Jamil Jivani having gone and met with Donald John Trump? Now, I when I say I'm not biased, people say like you're biased, Viva. If a conservative does it, you'll give him a pass. If a liberal does it, you won't. If a Republican does it, you'll give him a pass. If a Democrat does, you won't. Bull crap. I can understand what people might say when politicians, without the authority of the person who speaks on behalf of the party. Remember, Pierre has to let you know that. Pierre speaks on behalf of the party, and that's why Canada is turning into the hellhole that it is. We're going to get into more stuff. Violent transgender dads who stab their daughter in the throat get let out with virtually no bail. We're going to get to that. I didn't want to start the show off with that because it might require a bit of a warning. The fact that Pierre Poilievre is the so-called spokesperson for the so-called conservative, so-called opposition party is exactly why you have the slaughter of 400 some odd ostriches. It's the exact reason why Canada is in the state that it's in, because you have no opposition. And you have a man who didn't learn from his mistakes that cost him the election, doubling down on those mistakes now. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says he doesn't agree with comments made by one of his MPs who categorized Canada's reaction to the ongoing trade war with the United States as an anti-American hissy fit. Earlier this month, Conservative MP and longtime friend of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Jamil Jivani, traveled to Washington, D.C. for a solo diplomatic mission to meet with senior U.S. officials, calling the conversations productive. You want to know who's going to be the next leader of the Conservative Party? It's going to be Jamil Jivani. And he's going to damn well deserve it. Because this is what should have been done during the election, Pierre. Not after you lose it. And now that you lost the election, by doing exactly what you're complaining about right now, you want to double down on your stupidity by criticizing Jamil Jivani, ostensibly. I speak for the party, he speaks for himself. Well, you've done a very bad job speaking for the party, Pierre. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cough still. As the visit continued and Jivani took to social media to provide updates on the meetings he said he was having, including signaling he had spoken with U.S. President Donald Trump, questions were raised back in Ottawa about the impact this solo mission could have and the opposition MP's intentions. Here you have the tweet. Then in an interview with the U.S.-based far-right news organization Breitbart, which aired earlier this week, Jivani said, "We are shooting ourselves in the foot if we continue this anti-American hissy fit, and this is the reason I'm trying to talk into our government." The man sounds like the smartest guy in the Conservative Party right now. Canada and the United States have been in the throes of a trade war for more than a year after Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on Canadian imports, while the Canadian-US-Mexico agreement is already up for review this year. New reporting from Bloomberg indicated Trump is mulling walking away from the deal entirely. Prime Minister Mark Carney, meanwhile, ran in last year's election on the promise of being the best person to deal with Trump and has focused on his foreign policy on insulating Canada's economy from the United States. How do you do that? By sleeping with China. I mean, as if China isn't already fully embedded in Canada. They're going to go and, let's piss off Trump. Let's say that he's worse than Xi Jinping, and let's go sleep with Xi Jinping. Canadians have also made a shift, for example, by avoiding travel to the U.S., which has seen a significant drop in the last year. You know what they're doing? This is unbelievable. I'll get to that in a sec. When asked by reporters on Parliament Hill Tuesday whether he agrees with Jivani's assessment, Pierre said no. Well, yeah, it's great. It worked wonders in the last election. They're avoiding travel to America because it's so big, bad, and dangerous. Don't go to Florida because Florida's anti-trans and anti-2S LGBTQIA+. Go to Miami. Anybody who thinks that, you bloody morons. But you're right. Don't go to America. Don't go to Florida. Don't drink orange juice, people. Go to China. Because right now, China is offering visa-free travel for up to 30 days. And people are like, oh, that's always been like that. Now it's just making it a little easier. Yeah. Mark J. Carney tweeted about this the other day. Just so everyone appreciates, I tweet, China is offering visa-free travel to Canadians. Oh, yeah, sorry. China offering visa-free travel to Canadians is not a gesture of good faith from your new commercial partners. It's an invitation so they can spy on you, steal your data from your phone, and gain strategic advantage for future domination. Enjoy Beijing. Make sure to keep your elbows up. Oh, but Viva. They've been doing that for... travel to China's always been easy. Where was the article? Yeah, we saw the post from Carney the other day. But you know what's amazing? They're cozying up with China. Going to establish trade relations with China. Free visa. Go to China. This is on the government's own website, by the way. This is travel.gc, Gouvernement de Canada, .ca. Destination, China. China travel advice. Exercise a high degree of caution. Last updated, February 16. That's 2 days ago. While the Mark Carney celebrates visa-free travel to China, the government of Canada tells you to exercise a high degree of caution. Why? Let's just go through this. I mean, it's a good government safety announcement. Exercise a high degree of caution. Safety and security. Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Local authorities have put in place invasive security measures in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Chinese authorities are increasingly detaining ethnic and Muslim minorities in the region without due process. There are reports of extrajudicial internment and forced labor camps. Family members of Canadian citizens with Chinese citizenship have been detained. You may be at risk of arbitrary detention if you have familial or ethnic ties to the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. The situation, yada, yada, yada. Tibetan autonomous prefectures. You must obtain a permit and be taking part in an organized tour to travel to Tibet. Where else should we not go? Crime. Petty crimes such as pickpocketing, purse snatching, theft, yada, yada. Nobody really cares about that. Fraud. Credit card and ATM fraud occurs. Be cautious when using debit or credit cards. How the hell do you be cautious when you use your credit card or debit card in China? So, but scams, here you go, look at this. This is a great country. Telephone scams. Spiked food and drinks. Never leave food or drinks unattended or in the care of strangers. Why? Because you'll get spiked and you'll have your organs harvested. Be wary of accepting snacks, beverages, gum, or cigarettes from new acquaintances. These items may contain drugs that could put you at risk for sexual assault and robbery. Organ robbery. Internet censorship and cybersecurity. China blocks access to several websites, social media, search engines, and online services. You should really tighten up relations with this country, Canada. Carney, you're doing great. Jeez Louise, and wonder why Donald Trump would treat Canada as the national security threat that it has become, that it has made itself. You shouldn't expect internet privacy. Your communications may be monitored at any time, and authorities may review the content stored or consulted on your electronic devices. Oh, you mean like exactly like what the Liberal government of Canada, the so-called Liberal government of Canada, wants to do to Canadians? Have the ability to open your mail without any warrant, to look through your electronic devices without any warrant. Well, go to China, get used to it first. Elbows up, bitches. Road safety, whatever. I mean, it goes on. You would have thought this would be a country that your government would tell you to avoid at all costs. But no, despite all that, human rights abuses, stealing your organs, spying on your electronic devices, that's going to be your new trade partner. And Jamil Jivani is wrong for saying that your anti-American hissy fit is actually shooting yourselves in the foot. It's not just shooting yourselves in the foot. It's shooting yourselves in both feet, in your face, in your butt, wherever it hurts the most. And then you have the balls, the audacity to go after Jamil Jivani for stating the opposite. He said off the reservation. Fuck all of you idiots out there who want to try to discredit the legitimate ideas because of your own bullshit, punctual feigning of faux outrage for expressions. It's so easy. When you do it, you no longer have to address the ideas. Forget the hissy fit. Forget the legitimacy of the... He used an antiquated expression that I find to be racist. I mean, sure, you don't give a sweet bugger all about your native population living on reserves. How many boil water advisories are still in effect? Drug addiction, alcoholism, murder, sexual abuse, violence on reservation. Oh no, but Jamil Jivani said off the reservation, so he's the big baddie. Holy hell. So that's what's going on in Canada. And while everyone's out there feigning outrage about what he said, I'm sitting there, I'm bowling. You know, I'm at my weekly bowling. By the way, I averaged 199.66. I bowled a 599 over 3 games. So that, I think that still counts as 3 weeks in a row, 200 or more, because I'm rounding up. And I'm sitting there like, do I want to jump into this? Do I want people calling me racist, bigoted, whatever? Anti-Canadian for acknowledging, understanding, and supporting the only conservative MP out there who's actually looking out for Canada's best interest. No, you guys should cozy up to China. You should go take your free visa just to, cover your kidneys, peeps. Elbows up to, well, maybe you want your elbows down. Cover your kidneys, cover your liver. And Jamil Jivani, so far the only guy talking sense in Canada. It is a testament that he's friends with J.D. Vance, because it goes to show you that, reasonable people tend to like each other. But that's what's going on in Canada, at least as relates to this latest hissy fit from Canadians who seem to think that Donald Trump is the enemy, when in reality, you might not like it. Donald Trump is the bon père de famille, as we say. You might find this highly offensive, and if you do, go suck a lemon. Bon père de famille is the good father of the family. Not to say he's perfect. We're going to get into some of the other issues of the administration where they keep bungling. But you might want to understand that A, when it comes to national hemispheric security, Trump is right. B, you might already be too far into bed with Indian terrorist elements and Chinese communist elements to actually extricate yourself from that. And Trump might actually know that. And whether you like it or not, He is, in fact, the bon père de famille that you don't know that you need, but that, in fact, you do need. Because you're not getting it from Pierre Poilievre, and you sure as shit are not getting it from 3 passport-carrying globalist whore, Mark J. Carney, who sleeps with Chinese communists, metaphorically and politically speaking. I do not yet know, literally speaking, the way Americans, freedom-loving Americans, respect the Constitution. That is not the type of leader that you need, want, or deserve. But yet, it's the one you have. I guess you do deserve it because people voted for it. That's that.